Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and get started with this week's weekly outlook. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your Sunday to watch this. If you're watching this recording, also thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you guys are joining this weekly outlook for the very first time, my name is David Schinkel. I welcome you to these weekly outlooks. I am the CEO and founder of Positive Traders. Positive Traders has been almost around for 2 years now. Been doing these free weekly outlook webinars just about every single Sunday for the past 2 years to give you guys a free outlook, give you guys a little bit of an idea and bias of my opinion on the upcoming week in the Forex markets. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump into things. I do want to just give out the healthy disclaimers that I always do. As you guys are listening and partaking in my analysis, please understand that it is just that, guys, my analysis on the markets. I do not recommend that you guys are taking trades just based off of what I tell you guys. Please make sure you're using your own analysis. Please make sure you are using proper risk management, proper risk to reward, and you are just helping that this bias is a crutch or a handicap to your own analysis. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into things. Very first and foremost, I do want to take the time to just go over the economic calendar for this week. There are a couple high-risk events, which if you guys are familiar with the Forex Factory economic calendar, they are outlined with a red folder with the high-impact news. So there's a couple different high-impact news throughout this week, but most importantly, I think our key risk event is going to be Wednesday. It may not be Wednesday, depending on where you are. Make sure that you have this set to the correct time where you are. So for me out here, I am back in Australia. I spent the weekend in New Zealand, but I am back in Gold Coast, Australia. So it is going to be at Wednesday evening for myself. We do have quite a few high impact pieces of news on tap for the dollar. We have a couple different CPI, which is a consumer price index, and then we have some core retail sales that are going to be released at the exact same time. So 4 high impact news, all for the US dollar at the same time, Wednesday evening out here in Australia. Again, maybe a different time depending on where you are, so beware of that. There are a couple other high impact news, not really too much to speak on. I mean, there is Thursday, we do have some Australian dollar. We have the unemployment rate and employment change. That can be pretty volatile. I mean, essentially any red folder, any high impact news is going to create some volatility, but we can see that we're seeing the most amount of high impact news. That's why we call it the key risk event. It's the main high impact news among the other high impact news for the week. So we'll be watching that. But to start off the week, first couple days this week, Monday, Tuesday, we don't have a whole lot to worry about. We have some CPI for the pound, which we're going to be looking at the pound. Not too interested in trading the pound, but we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and start off with the dollar index, guys. So we saw a primarily bullish week for the dollar last week. We can see the weekly candle closed pretty bullish. Just before we scale into this, I do want to show you guys on a scaled out perspective from these swing levels in 2014 all the way up to the highs in 2017. And the retracement that was highs of 2016. Let's see exactly when. I think that was like the end of 2016. Yeah, end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So December 2016, January 2017, the highs of Euro USD were made in this area. And then we made a retracement. 2017 was pretty bearish for the US dollar. And we found, just to kind of outline what happened with price, we moved down to the 50% retracement level, made a little bit of a correction on that, and then moved a little bit lower. Now, previous 2 weeks, we found some support around the 61.8% retracement level. So where is price going this week? Well, I want to identify a couple key levels because we do have a pretty bullish, reversal pattern on the dollar index. We have this nice little morning star being formed in this area. If you guys do not know what a morning star is, it is a bullish correction pattern. It generally signifies buying pressure in the markets. It's where we have a big bearish candle followed by a doji or generally neutral candle followed by a big bullish candle. So sell candle, neutral candle, buy candle. That creates a morning star, which is generally a bullish pattern. Now this is on the weekly time frame. Now I want to break this down onto the daily time frame just to show you guys a couple key things to watch for. We are at a previous demand zone on this pair. So previously back here where you can see where I'm creating this black level of support, we made this bear flag before we dropped lower where we've been in the past couple of weeks. Now this past week we broke out of this range, this lower range down here. We broke out of that and now we are moving up towards, or we already made that move up towards this previous demand level, which is now creating an area of resistance for us. So this could be a tricky situation. So on the weekly, I'd like to see bullish pressure on the dollar. I'd like to see the dollar index continue the correction up higher. And where would I like to see that correction go up to? I like to see that correction at least go up to this 50% retracement level, or possibly come and retest this resistance trend line. So I think that there's definitely still room to the upside on the dollar index. However, I want to recognize that we are at this previous demand zone now acting as resistance. And if we look at this on the 4-hour, we have a little bit of consolidation in this area happening. So we have this sideways consolidation. So just kind of watch this zone, guys. Watch this space to see what happens. I think, of course, there's always going to be one of two scenarios, either going to go up or down, or it could consolidate sideways. But I think this week we're probably going to continue consolidating sideways a little bit and then make its way up. Now, this can change based on, my bias can definitely change based on the way this daily candle closes. This is very key. The Sunday daily candle that is open right now, this candle that has a little bit of red in it right now, this is key for me to have a bias for the remainder of the week. If this daily candle continues moving lower and we break Fridays and Thursdays lows right here and we make a very strong bearish candle and we see a strong presence of sellers, then I am not going to be looking for buys on the dollar index. However, if we continue to consolidate, let's say the candle closes around here, or this turns for the day and we end up making a blue candle and a bullish candle to the top side, then I'm going to be looking for buys. But this Sunday candle is really going to pretty much determine my bias for the next 36 hours in the, 24 to 48 hours in the markets, guys. So we're going to stick with that. I'm going to be watching to see how the markets play out. I very quickly want to look at gold as well. Now, gold, if you guys have been following last week's weekly outlook, by the way, most of you guys know based on the messages I put in Slack and Telegram, for whatever reason, it did not get recorded. It says it's recording right now, so it should be recorded. It should be fine. But there were many of you guys that were also on last week's webinar. Also, if you are in the premium group following along with the weekly or the daily live webinars that I do Monday through Thursday, you guys know that I had drawn this green box. I didn't just place this. Has been on my chart for well over a week now, that we've been expecting gold to hit somewhere between the 1300 and 1310 level after we saw a strong rejection on the weekly time frame last week around this area. We were looking to see price move towards this area. So we did see that target hit. So you can actually see, I think it was Thursday's candle. Yeah, Thursday's candle, you can actually see price hit the 1310 area. And we're finding a little bit of support. Again, if we continue to see dollar strength, if we can, as we saw last week, we saw that strong bear or bullish weekly candle close for the dollar index. If we continue to see dollar strength hold, then we're going to see gold continue to move lower and probably move back and find a significant move into the 1300 and 1310 area. As of right now, I'm going to be sitting on the sidelines, obviously with gold finding a little bit of resistance around that previous, with the dollar index finding some resistance at the previous demand level, we're finding gold find some support. So no surprise that we're seeing, gold kind of consolidating sideways and moving up, while we're seeing the dollar kind of consolidating sideways and moving down. We know that these have an opposite and negative correlation to each other. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at Euro USD. Exact same. If you guys don't know this by now, you need to know that the dollar index and Euro USD move the exact opposite of each other. Okay. So if we see, if we're talking about the dollar index, how it moved up last week and now it's consolidating sideways and moving a little bit down. We see Euro USD last week move down, consolidating sideways and moving a little bit up. So very similar setup with Euro USD. I want to very quickly show you guys this on the weekly. We had a very strong reversal pattern created at the end of last week. If you guys don't know, the opposite of a morning top is a morning star is an evening star. And this is an evening star that is being created. So we have a strong bullish candle. We have a doji or neutral candle, and then we have a strong bearish candle. All right, that is an evening star, and this is a pretty strong reversal pattern. Also, keep in mind, guys, that when you guys are trading patterns, you guys are understanding like price action and pattern trading, like bullish engulfing candles, bearish engulfing candles, bull flags, bear flags, all these types of exhaustion candles, all that good stuff. The higher the time frame, generally the stronger the formation. Okay, so I'd like to see, again, like the dollar index, how I'd like to see some buying pressure on the dollar and see it moving up higher. Same thing with Euro USD. I'd like to see it move higher. However, we need to recognize the price action that we have. We had a lot of selling pressure on Euro USD. We're still in a major uptrend on Euro USD. So we can see Thursdays and Fridays candle kind of started to find a little bit of support. We also are back in this previous consolidation range where we had a previous supply zone. Now we have broken through this area. If Euro USD, what I would like to see something happen is, like a bounce off of this area and then moving lower. Okay, that's what I'd like to see happen. Long term, I'm going to remain bullish on Euro USD, and it all really has to do with the way this daily candle closes. If we see this daily candle, which, guys, the market's just opened up, the daily candle has only been open for, I believe, 3 hours, right? We look at it on the 1 hour. I believe it's literally only been 3 hours. 210, 210, 212. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. We're on the 4th hour right now, but it's been open for 3 hours and 17 minutes. The markets have been open. So, don't think just because Euro USD is moving up right now that, it's going to go up this entire week, right? Keep in mind that when you guys are watching this, to take this with a grain of salt, that everything I'm explaining is a weekly time frame. What I talk about may not play out today. It may not play out tomorrow. It may not even play out Tuesday. It might take until Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday for my overall bias to play out. But I do believe that we're going to continue throughout this week. At some point, we're going to continue to see the dollar strength. We're going to see last week's highs on the dollar broken, and we're probably going to see last week's lows on Euro USD tested. Ideally, what I'd like to see is some sort of resistance found in this area, just like we actually had seen some resistance back in this area. And I'd like to see some more downside on this pair, which would translate into more dollar strength. However, I want to give this daily candle, some time to breathe. I want to see how this daily candle closes. If we end up seeing a very, very strong bullish daily candle close on Euro USD, then that is going to hint to me that these buyers in this long-term uptrend that Euro USD has been in for a very long time is still intact, and we're going to continue to see buys on this pair. But it really has to do, I want confirmation in the form of a daily candle close. I'm not interested in shorting Euro USD just yet, just because we're finding some support in this area, and especially with the way the dollar index looks, right? More so, less on the Euro USD and more so on the way the dollar index looks, with finding, very, very strong week like we talked about, but also recognizing this previous support and recognizing that it is acting as some resistance. Former support is acting as current resistance. So I need to break through this area. I need price to break through this area for me to continue with my bias to the upside on the dollar index. However, if you guys have been following my analysis, I said very clearly last week, I said right in Telegram, if you guys have been in Telegram for last week, I said, I'll post a quick, I'm reading this right off of Telegram, guys. I said, I'll post a quick text recap overall. And this is posted last Sunday, guys. I said, overall this week, I am expecting some short-term USD strength as long as Sunday's daily candle on the dollar index moves and closes higher. I still remain long-term bearish on USD. The best two looking pairs to trade, in my opinion, is pound dollar and New Zealand dollar, US dollar, both for potential downside. And I said, if we see significant USD strengthening this week, expect downside on Euro USD and upside on dollar yen. So analysis moved to a T. We're also going to look at some charts that I posted last week. So going to kind of get off of those two pairs, guys. I think you guys understand my bias. So I don't need to spend too much time on USD Swiss franc. If you guys know that my bias is still to strengthening on the dollar, as long as the Sunday daily candle is bullish this week as well on the dollar index, then I'm going to remain bullish on USD Swiss franc. We saw a lot of consolidation in this pair last week, not as much movement as we did on Euro USD. So generally, when we see downside on Euro USD, we see upside on this pair, which we did see a little bit of last week, but we saw some more so consolidation on this pair. So not really interested in trading this pair, but if we do see Euro USD continue to fall, we do see dollar index continue to rise, then I'm going to remain bullish on this pair as well. Now, pound dollar, I want to very quickly go over pound dollar. I want to pull up a chart from last week. Let me just share this with you guys. So this chart, hopefully you guys can see that on your screen. This is a screenshot from TradingView. I posted this last week on both our Facebook page and Telegram. And with this post, if you guys it's right in Telegram. I'm just reading this right off of Telegram. I said, 4-hour trend line break, double top and selling pressure seen around a previous supply zone. So there's our double top. There's our 4-hour trend line break, and there is our selling pressure seen around a previous resistance and supply zone, which is resistance. Okay. So, and I said downside expected. And so let's just very quickly go to the actual chart. Let's go to the live charts and see how price played out. And there you guys go. All right. Downside expected as possible, or as expected. Okay. Now, moving into this week, I'm going to be on the sidelines with GBP USD. I'm going to expect more downside on this pair, but I am definitely going to be staying away from this pair, especially after the issue that happened last week. So I have also been getting some messages from you guys, especially from premium members. We did have a situation last week on pound dollar. I am very transparent, guys. I am not going to, ignore or avoid any losses. So I have obviously been very transparent in Slack with the premium members, but just to address this issue with free members and people that may be watching our group following our MAM account, many of you guys saw last week a pretty significant loss, about an 18% loss on our MAM on one trade, which is very abnormal. You guys know that being a professional trader and being able to track my results, one thing I really pride myself in and Positive Traders in is having a transparent MyFX book that is almost 12 months old. And unfortunately, last week we had an issue, which I'll very quickly explain. Some of you guys follow me on social media, on Instagram. You guys know last Friday I made a trip to New Zealand. And as soon as I got I'm temporarily living in Australia for the past couple months, and I will be for the next few months. I go back to the United States in April, and I took a little trip to New Zealand this weekend. just to get away. And as soon as I got to New Zealand, pulled up the charts, checked into my Airbnb, was checking out how things were going with the charts, saw an opportunity to sell pound dollar. It was somewhere down in this area. I decided to sell pound dollar. As usual, you guys know, if you have been following my FX book, or if you guys are even connected to my trade copy or yourself, you guys know that you never experience a loss of more than 2%. Right? And I've consistently used good risk management for the past 12 months and never have high drawdown, never, ever, ever. I have a proven track record of using proper risk management. Unfortunately, my negligence, I looked at the economic calendar and I knew that there was pound news coming out, but I thought it had already happened at 11 p.m., which was around 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in New Zealand when I had placed the trade. And it was just my negligence because the time zone, I had not changed the time zone to the correct time inside of my FX book. So I kind of overlooked that time change, which is completely my fault. And we saw some high impact pound news. We actually saw an interest rate decision for the pound dollar, as well as a rate statement come out in the middle of this trade, which gapped our stop loss. And we ended up, so what happens, guys, is with brokers, when stop losses, when there are high impact news, liquidity thins out, right? The liquidity providers of the brokers, which are generally banks, they are not able to provide as much liquidity as they can when there are not high volatility or high impact news. So when there's big spikes out of nowhere, when there's like a 1 minute candle that spikes up 100 pips, there's no guarantee that your stop loss is going to stay at that 2%. So even though a stop loss is placed at 2%, unfortunately, due to my negligence and not with the time zone change and not seeing that there was pound news right after we placed a trade, we got stopped out for more than our 2% loss. So I do appreciate the support that you guys have given me. I'm very happy that 99% of you guys that are clients of mine have had a very positive outlook. Most of you guys that are clients, you guys have been connected long term. We were about 50% profit since March 1st of 2017. So this just eats away some of the profits that you've had. And in the grand scheme of things, if I compare positive traders, I like to always look at the positive and be as optimistic as possible. And even though this was a loss greater than I'd like to see, and the biggest loss I've seen in literally 2 years of trading, I'd like to say that it's still, many, many, many times better than I see what many groups do. I see many, many groups take advantage of traders and blow people's account, right? I'm not going to name any names. I don't like to call anybody out, name any groups. I never do. I just like to stay neutral. But you guys know the groups that I'm talking about that, have a consistent track record of blowing people's accounts, right? Like losing people on a weekly basis, the kind of money that we lost this first time in 2 years. So, I just wanted to, come out and let some of you guys might have heard about what happened. Some of you guys may not know, and just want to address these situations. So I like to be as transparent as possible with you guys that did happen. Of course, I think that this is something that, 18% is something that is very recoverable. I think it can be brought back in within 1 to 3 months. You guys know this previous week, just before this happened, we did 5% gain in 1 week. So I think with the market conditions and the way things are moving right now, this is something that is easily recoverable, and it is far from blowing anywhere even close to half your account or even a 100% of your account. Me personally, I lost $65,000 on that trade. All right, I'm trading on about almost a $300,000 account. It was about $290,000. And now I'm sitting at about a $225,000 account. So I feel the pain just as much as some of you guys that are connected to the account did. But we're here for the weekly outlook, guys. I'm not going to spend too much other time on that. This is, something, if you guys have some questions, comments, concerns, you guys can message me in Telegram, message me on Facebook, message me. But I just wanted to, put that situation out there, on the record, recorded, so you guys can be able to do that. Also, just to answer Bob, you have a question. You said, how would one live off of Forex like that? Well, Bob, maybe you can clarify your question a little bit more. I mean, I started Forex a couple of years ago with a few $1,000s, and I let my account compound and compound and compound over time. So even with having again, I mean, that $65,000 loss for me personally is 18% of my account, right? It's not, I still have, multiple six figures to work with and live off of. So maybe if you want to clarify your question a little bit. But anyways, guys, let's go back to the analysis. Pound dollar. I'd like to see some more downside, especially with some more dollar strength and Euro USD seeing some downside. All really, you guys should get in the idea, should get in the, mindset or just the understanding that all of my analysis and all of the pairs that I trade pretty much have to do with what the dollar index is doing. Okay. Other times there's going to be other factors and whatnot, but most of the time my bias on what I trade has to do with the dollar index. So my bias on pound dollar is simple. As long as we see the dollar continue to strengthen, we should see downside on this pair. If we start to see the long-term downtrend of the dollar index pick up and we see some selling pressure on the dollar, then we're more than likely going to see pound dollar move up higher. But if we do see more downside on the pound dollar, which is what I would like to see, I think our next targets on pound dollar are going to be somewhere around here, somewhere around this resistance that we broke out of, right? Early 2018, we broke out of this area, but it was the highs of 2017, okay? So I think we're going to potentially retest that. Let's go ahead and look at pound yen very quickly. Pound yen is looking a little bit gross, just looking at the massive volatility on Thursdays and Fridays candle. You guys can see, look at that. Ooh, Friday's candle was pretty gross, right? Major wick on the upside, major wick on the downside. Just, ooh, I just call it gross. I hate when there's just major volatility like that. I think we're probably going to more than likely see downside on this pair. We saw a major bearish engulfing weekly candle on pound yen. I think our next target, if we continue to the downside, is going to definitely be this triple top. And well, we've actually seen more than just a triple top. We've also seen a double bottom created in this area. So this area, this green area, and I'll mark this off for you guys so you can put this on your own charts. This green area around 147.50, major area of previous resistance and previous support. So that's probably where our next area of support is going to be. Have a couple questions. Mike, you asked what broker do I use? I use FX Choice. Also, what's the maximum you can withdraw from them at a time? I mean, you can withdraw as much as you want. If I wanted to withdraw my entire account, multiple six figures at one time, I could. I mean, you guys have to understand that. I mean, I'm even having multiple six figures. I'm a fish in a giant sea, right? I'm sure there's people with FX Choice that have millions of dollars, 500, 600, even, not millions, 500, 600, $700,000 and multiple millions, maybe even tens of millions. I don't know FX Choice, at that type of level. I don't know how many customers they have, but I do know they're one of the most reputable retail Forex brokers that are out there, at least that US clients can use. And I mean, they're one of the top rated. If you guys know anything about Forex Peace Army, they're kind of like the gold standard or the industry standard of reviews. They're right there at the top. So I'm sure, there's people with a lot more money in their accounts than what I have. So dollar yen, I want to very quickly talk about dollar yen. Kind of interesting to see dollar yen. And we stayed away from this pair last week for one reason. And that reason is it is not had a correlation to the dollar index, which is interesting because, and Euro USD as well, because generally speaking, when we see a stronger dollar, we see Euro USD go down, right? Which is what we saw last week. And when we see all of this happen, we generally also see on a stronger dollar, we see dollar yen move up as well. However, last week, this can also be proven by looking at pound yen, because the yen is the quote currency on both of these two pairs. We saw very significant strengthening in the yen, which created downside on pound yen and also created some consolidation on dollar yen. So it's interesting to see that we saw strengthening on the dollar index, selling pressure on Euro USD. However, we also saw selling pressure on dollar yen when we would not generally expect that. So going into this week, I'm not going to recommend trading dollar yen either. We are at a very, very significant demand area, okay? A very significant area of support for this pair. So I want you guys to recognize that. I'll put this on the charts. But I am not going to give you guys my bias because I do not have a bias. Is it going to break this bottom or is it going to bounce off of this area? I personally would like to see, upon the dollar strengthening more and Euro USD continuing lower, ideally, I'd like to see this pair bounce off of this demand area and make some moves to the upside. But who knows? We'll have to see what happens. You know, like I said, I think out of everything that we've looked at so far, Euro USD is the one to keep your eyes on right now. Okay. Let's look at AUD USD and NZD USD. Both of these pairs have a pretty positive correlation to each other. Now, I want to very quickly show you guys. Let's see, where's my ideas? My ideas only. Let's go to the daily. Where is it? Right here. Okay. So let's see if this will load. Oh man, I don't know what is wrong with TradingView. This doesn't want to load for some reason. Okay, let's back up for just a second. Let me open it up this way. AUD D1 chart. Let's share this with you guys. So this is something I also shared inside of Telegram for you guys. I also actually posted it on my TradingView trade ideas. You guys can follow me on TradingView. You can see right here on the top left-hand corner is my username, just my first and last name, David Schinkel. But I posted this chart, guys, and I said major channel break as well as selling pressure seen around a previous supply zone. Okay, and I posted this chart, and I actually also posted with this chart. You may not, it's obviously not on the screenshot, but it is on the trading idea. I posted a blue arrow that looks something like this. Okay, let's go look at the live charts very quickly. Okay, so here is the live chart of New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Okay, it says if you go to my trading view, you can actually click on and you can actually see my trade idea. For whatever reason, it doesn't want to pull up, but here is that blue arrow that I drew. And let's just go through this, right? I said channel break. And I've been telling you guys to watch for this channel to break. Watch for this channel to break, and this is what we've been waiting for. Channel break, and then also major supply area, right? You can see on the weekly, makes a lot of sense. Major supply zone. So we've been expecting downside on this pair, and that is what we got. Got some pretty significant downside. Beginning of last week was a little tricky, right? I know might have tricked some of you guys. We had a nice Sunday candle close, and then Monday's candle was pretty bullish. I know some of you guys are probably like, I don't know if this is going to play out. Ended up playing out very nicely. Okay? You can see it on the 4-hour also. Followed exactly with that line. This line has not changed. This arrow has not changed, guys. I don't just draw this right before the webinars to seem like I'm some crazy good trader. You can watch, well, I guess last week's webinar wasn't recorded, but you can go and see the trading idea right on TradingView, right? There's screenshots in Telegram. There's screenshots everywhere of this blue arrow. I don't just post it randomly before this to seem like a good trader. Just follows the analysis, guys. Follows what makes sense and what should happen. So where is price going to go this week? I'd continue to like to see more downside, right? We're kind of making a little bit of a ABCDE pattern, ABCDE pattern. Okay, a little bit of a 5 wave. We got our Elliott wave going. Got our first impulse wave, first correction wave, second impulse wave, second correction wave, third impulse wave. Should be coming in. Okay. So watch for this to happen. This also obviously has a lot to do with the dollar index, right? I do want to recognize one thing, guys, kind of similarly how the dollar index is struggling to break the current resistance where it's at. And obviously just the first few hours of this week, we're seeing a little bit of a downside on the dollar. We do have this bullish engulfing candle on New Zealand dollar, US dollar. So I want to recognize that But I also want to recognize, we also had a bullish engulfing candle up here and we saw more downside. So, don't let one bullish engulfing candle on the daily, especially when it's not at extreme highs or lows, right? If we saw a bearish engulfing candle up here, a good example is actually this right here. You see how we have a bearish engulfing candle right here? And if you look to the left, this is extreme highs where we see that, right? Well, if you look right here, bullish engulfing candle, if you look to the left, well, there's price all right here. This is not extreme lows. If we were at extreme lows seeing a bullish engulfing candle, then yes, I think that that buying pressure is a little bit more significant, but it's in the middle of price. So it becomes somewhat irrelevant. So I'm expecting more downside on New Zealand dollar, US dollar throughout this week. We also have a nice weekly candle. Okay. Nice weekly candle. Stayed below this supply area. We're below. We also talked about this last week, how we had 6 weeks of buying pressure on New Zealand dollar, and we finally let up last week. I think this correction needs to go a little bit deeper. You guys know I haven't been incorporating Fibonacci as much, but I could just very quickly outline the Fib because this is a pretty clean, uptrend, and then to see our retracement to the downside. Maybe I think our next move to the downside, especially if we break last week's lows, is going to be somewhere around the 50% retracement level. Okay, we'll look to see what happens. Let's just quickly revert back to AUD USD because I just kind of skipped over it, but we know it follows New Zealand dollar US dollar. So very similar, guys. We saw a lot of downside on New Zealand dollar US dollar last week, so we saw a lot of downside on AUD USD as well. I think we're going to continue to see some more downside. Just to outline, I've been talking about this pattern for quite a while. Last time we saw a major uptrend, we saw a major downtrend following. So we saw a major uptrend, and I think that we're going to continue to see this downtrend to follow. Okay. My next target on AUD USD, I'm actually going to remove this for now too. This kind of becomes irrelevant after this weekly. Oh, can't press delete for some reason. Okay. Pretty clean price action on AUD USD, right? We saw rejection around this zone. So previous support, resistance. This turned into a pretty significant supply level for AUD USD. And then we saw resistance 2 weeks ago. If you guys watched last week's webinar, right? Free money on the table with this pair, right? Nice bearish engulfing candle. Big bearish engulfing candle at a previous resistance area, previous supply area. Okay. This week, I'd expect to see some downside. All right. Let's finish it off with USD CAD. USD CAD, I would stay on the sidelines for now. If you guys watched last week's webinar, we've actually been looking and waiting for USD CAD to come and retest this range. We've talked about it a couple weeks, right? We talked about it back in this area where if price continued to go higher, it's probably going to find some resistance around here. And then obviously we saw this downtrend, and as soon as this started to pull up, we talked about finding our next area of resistance at this previous level of support. And we saw that happen Friday, okay? Not too interested in trading USD CAD. If we continue to see upside on dollar index and we continue to see Sorry, guys. All right, we are back. If you guys know anything, that is one thing I am not going to miss when I go home in April, when I go back to the States in April, is the Wi-Fi. For some reason, Wi-Fi, it's like being in a third world country in Australia with their Wi-Fi. They are way underdeveloped with their Wi-Fi in this country. You guys live out here, you guys know what I'm talking about. Can't even really get anything faster than like 10, 15 megabits per second. So you guys should know how slow that is. It's terrible. So sorry about that. USD CAD, I don't know what you guys heard, but I was just saying that we've been looking for price to test this previous range, the support of this range, which we did on Friday. Not really too, I don't really like how that daily candle looks on USD CAD, especially when we were wanting to see buying pressure on the dollar index. So just stay on the sidelines, guys, for now. These are the two pairs. I'll just give you guys a quick recap out of everything I just spoke on. The two pairs I am interested in the most is New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Okay, hopefully the internet wants to load. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. I'm interested to see if we want to continue this break of this channel. Sorry, the Wi-Fi is just garbage right now, guys. Trying to get this 4-hour to load. Oh man, guys. All right. Can't even get anything to load. Okay. All right. We're just going to have to leave it as this, guys, because this internet is just so bad. I cannot wait to get back and have my normal 750 megabits per second to not be working on 10 megabits per second in these webinars. It's really unprofessional, guys. I'm sorry that these things go out. I just can't control anything. I'm in the 35th floor of a high rise, and I don't know. They just can't get good Wi-Fi even when you're paying so much money to live in one of these high rises. So it's kind of frustrating. But anyways, guys, to recap, two pairs I'm interested in the most is New Zealand dollar, US dollar to the downside. I like to see this down, this move to the downside continue, especially after seeing such a strong break last week, seeing a couple, two nice bearish weekly candles, and just, this major channel being broken. I think this is going to stay intact and we're going to move lower. And Euro USD as well. I want to see, like I mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar, I'd like to see a little bit of resistance in this area, bounce off of this zone and then move lower on dollar strength. Again, has to do with the way the daily candle closes, but as long as we get to see some nice moves in the markets and we continue to see dollar strength, I'd like to see both of these pairs play out. So that is that, guys. If you are watching this recording, thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this entire thing. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up, subscribe so you'll be notified on the future webinars. And have a wonderful week, guys. Make sure you guys are using proper risk management on everything. And that's it, guys. I'll catch you, your free members. I'll catch you guys on next Sunday's free Sunday Outlook webinar at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And premium members, I will catch you guys on tomorrow's daily live Outlook. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media, guys. I'll find some time to reply to you guys. But other than that, have a wonderful week, guys. Take it easy.